Before the world, before history, before everything, there was Genesis. The first book of the Bible is a portal to the past, a glimpse of the dawn of creation. Get ready to see the book of creation with new eyes, to question, reflect, and marvel. This is an invitation to explore the grandeur of the beginning, to understand how the echoes of Genesis still resonate in our lives even after millennia. Today, you will learn 10 fascinating facts about the first book of the Bible. Our journey begins with the word Genesis itself. Derived from the ancient Greek Genesis, it means origin, birth, beginning. Genesis doesn't just tell us about the birth of the universe, the formation of stars and planets, but also about the breath of life on our planet. Imagine the young Earth covered in primitive oceans, where microscopic life began to flourish. Genesis places us before this vibrant tapestry of creation, inviting us to contemplate the beauty and complexity of the natural world. But Genesis goes beyond the physical world. It introduces us to the birth of humanity, the creation of man and woman in God's image. The authorship of Genesis, like that of many ancient texts, is shrouded in mystery and debate. Traditionally, authorship is attributed to Moses, the prophet who led the Hebrew people out of slavery in Egypt. Although Moses lived centuries after the events narrated in Genesis, Jewish and Christian tradition holds that God revealed the story of creation to Moses. However, modern scholars debate the Mosaic authorship of Genesis, pointing to possible indications of different literary styles and oral traditions interwoven in the text. Regardless of the hand that wrote the words, the power and influence of Genesis remain intact. One of the most intriguing aspects of Genesis is the presence of two distinct creation narratives. The first, in Genesis 1, presents a majestic and orderly view of creation. God in His omnipotence speaks, and everything is made. In Genesis 2, the perspective changes. The focus shifts to the creation of man from the dust of the earth and the divine breath that gives him life. Some scholars see these two narratives as contradictory, while others interpret them as complementary. Regardless of the interpretation, the presence of two creation narratives in Genesis invites us to deepen our understanding of the mystery of creation. Genesis is not just a book, it's an epic chronicle that spans millennia of human history. Beginning with the creation of the universe itself, Genesis takes us through an epic panorama, from the formation of man to the saga of his descendants. We follow the story of Adam and Eve, the temptation, the fall, and the expulsion from paradise. We witness the first family breaking apart with the murder of Abel by his brother Cain. We travel through time with Noah and his ark, escaping the flood that swept the earth. Genesis is a microcosm of the Bible itself, a fertile ground where the central themes of the Judeo-Christian faith sprout with force. Sin, the fall, judgment, grace, sacrifice, faith, and promise, all these themes find their roots in the pages of Genesis. The temptation of Adam and Eve in the Garden of Eden marks the beginning of humanity's struggle against sin. Their disobedience breaks the perfect harmony of creation and introduces suffering, pain, and death into the world. But even amidst the fall, God's grace shines. We see faith being tested and strengthened through the stories of Noah, Abraham, and their descendants. Genesis shows us that the journey of faith is rarely easy. For many modern readers, the long lists of names and generations in Genesis may seem tedious and irrelevant. But in fact, these genealogies are much more than just lists of names. They are conducting threads that weave the tapestry of biblical history. The genealogies in Genesis serve to connect the past to the present, showing the continuity of the human lineage from Adam to the patriarchs who shaped the history of Israel. They reveal how God worked through the generations, fulfilling His promises and guiding humanity towards redemption. Furthermore, the genealogies serve as a reminder that we are part of something much bigger than ourselves. The story of the Tower of Babel, told in Genesis 11, is a timeless tale about human ambition, excessive pride, and the search for unity in a fragmented world. After the flood, humanity, united by a single language, decides to build a tower so tall that it would reach the heavens. But God, seeing the arrogance and pretension in their hearts, decides to intervene. He confuses the language of men, creating a multiplicity of languages that hinders communication and cooperation between them. The story teaches us that true unity is not achieved by force, but by humility and mutual respect. The shadow of the first murder hangs over the history of humanity as a grim foreshadowing of the human capacity for evil. Cain and Abel, brothers united by blood ties, become rivals in a conflict that culminates in tragedy. Abel, a shepherd, offers God the best of his flock as a sacrifice, and his offering pleased God. Cain, a farmer, offers the fruits of the earth, but his offering did not please God. He became angry with his brother Abel. Blinded by rage, Cain lures Abel into a field and kills him, committing the first murder in history. No figure in Genesis shaped the religious history of humanity as profoundly as Abraham. Considered the father of Judaism and Christianity, Abraham is a symbol of unwavering faith, radical obedience, and absolute trust in the divine promise. Called by God to leave his homeland, Ur of the Chaldeans, Abraham embarks on an uncertain journey towards an unknown land. His faith is tested at every step, but he never wavers, even when God asks him to sacrifice his only son, Isaac. Abraham's willingness to sacrifice everything for God becomes the model of obedience and devotion for future generations. Genesis, the book of beginnings, surprisingly ends not in the promised land, but in Egypt. After a series of dramatic events, Joseph, son of Jacob, becomes governor of Egypt, saving the country from famine. The story of Joseph, sold as a slave by his brothers and raised to a position of power by God, is a roller coaster of emotions: betrayal, suffering, forgiveness, and finally, reconciliation. The book of Genesis ends with the death of Joseph, but the story is far from over. His bones will be carried to the promised land when the people of Israel, freed from slavery in Egypt, finally take possession of the land that God promised to Abraham. And so ends our journey through the fascinating pages of Genesis. From the origins of the universe to the saga of humanity, we explored mysteries, unveiled enigmas, and discovered how the echoes of the past still resonate in our lives today. But the story doesn't end here. Genesis is just the beginning of an epic journey that unfolds through the pages of the Bible. Keep exploring, keep questioning, keep searching. The Bible is an inexhaustible book, full of wisdom, inspiration, and hope. So, which of these facts did you already know? Which one surprised you the most? Comment below, leave a like, and share with someone who loves to study the Bible.